Hey guys, good afternoon. And this is episode 35 of At the Coffee Table podcast. I'm Jason Klink, your host. And today I get a great pleasure and great honor of interviewing Jess Novak of the Jess Novak Band. Jess is a local musician, has, from what I've seen, been up and down the East Coast, making music, singing music. She's a performer, songwriter. If you haven't had the chance of hearing Jess's music, so that's just a little clip of some of the songs that Jess performs. Jess, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Jess and I go way back. I haven't seen her in quite a long time. I haven't had the pleasure of talking to her in a long time. But Jess used to bartend and bartended for my brother in his old club downtown. And that was a number of years ago. Jess, what was the catalyst to, because I had no idea even back then that you were a performer, that you could sing for that matter. And how did that transition go from being a young lady who was bartending into music and a performer and creating your own band?
I didn't know either. It was weird. I was a music editor, at that time. So I was writing for the Syracuse New Times, a local alternative weekly, and I was bartending, and I was on the Rebel radio station. I was a midday DJ. So I was doing all kinds of things around music, but I didn't play. And I had played violin since I was a kid, since I was 7, but that was all classical music. So I had never played a rock show, or I didn't even know where to start. So I did a concert, Salt City Waltz, and it was based off of The Last Waltz, a Scorsese film about the band. And somebody saw me play violin. They invited me to start playing with them, and then it just all snowballed really quickly. And once I started playing, I never stopped. That was it.
And from what I can tell, a lot of talented musicians, that's really it. Just starts with that one spark, that one opportunity, and like you said, snowballs from there, which is just outstanding. So for people that haven't heard you, that they don't know about you, your genre of music kind of goes a little bit all over the charts. Pop, rock, maybe some soul or folk. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So you really are just that talented to be able to sing everything from rock to folk and everything in between. What is kind of your lane that you like to go to for a show or for recording music? What is kind of your favorite, I guess?
Blues and soul. And I think they're very similar. You could get down to the nitty gritty of what makes them different, but the ideas both are very emotional, and that's always what draws me to any kind of music. And so that's what I like to perform the best too.
Who would you say you kind of pattern your songwriting and your singing after?
So I have a variety of influences. My band is definitely in the idea of Tedeschi trucks, and that for part of it is because she also plays instruments, solos. She's the female lead with male backup singer. So there are a lot of very like physical similarities between us, but also just her vein of music. It's kind of similar in that it's pop, rock, soul, blues. It's kind of a mix. And I also like that their band is huge. It's organ and horns, and it's a wild experience. And so I've always wanted to have my band do the same. So like right now we have 2 drummers, a trumpet player who also sings, who puts effects on his trumpet, a guitar player who can do anything. The whole idea is that the band is not just, a 4-piece who never moves. It's people who do a lot of different things and bring a lot of different sounds.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned, because I was just thinking of I tripped over Brass Against the Machine on social media a couple 2-3 years ago, and I started listening. I'm like, wow, that's to take a hard rock or almost a metal band with Rage and put all these instrumentals, the brass instrumentals into the music and just knock it out of the park was pretty phenomenal to me. Do you see kind of a growing in music for more expression, more kind of testing the boundaries, that kind of movement within music?
Definitely. A lot of that I think is due to technology, because it used to be that not that you were ever totally limited, but you kind of were. You like when bands, just for how bands recorded, they would stand in a room and play a song and they would record it. Whereas now that's very rarely how it's done. There's a lot more happening, and you can play a keyboard but 100% change the sound of it. So there's all these different ways that you can alter your sound. And even as a solo artist, I hardly ever play a show where it's just me and a guitar. It's always me and a looper, and then an electric violin, probably a keyboard too. And so everything's become more complicated, but it's also become more fun because you can start expanding in all different ways. Even by yourself, you can become a full band in a second. So then to multiply that times 6 people in a band, the options are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, you do a lot of your own songwriting and your original songs. Are you doing more of your original and less covers, or do you just do a fine mix? Or
yeah, so when I play live, I just respond to the audience. If they are asking for covers, I'll happily do that. I'm definitely not against that at all. Every cover is an original for somebody, and I've learned something from every cover I've ever learned. So I like doing them, but you always feel more of a connection with your originals. So what I've found, and I see this in other artists as well, is that when an artist performs a song they wrote, it's a different experience. You can see it, you can feel it in the way they play the song. So It's been really cool for me is I've been on Twitch now since March, since right around when the pandemic started. And I started out and watched a lot of people, and it was 100% covers. It was very rare that I would see someone play an original. And since then, I've found artists who do original songs, but not that much. And for me, my most popular days on Twitch are consistently when I play only originals. So that's been really encouraging and felt really good to me as a writer, that people want to hear. They show up for Thursdays when they know it's all original. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's funny. That's an interesting segue, because I was going to bring up, okay, so pre-COVID, I mean, you're traveling up and down the East Coast, you're doing all kinds of live shows locally, probably busy all summer long and then some. COVID hits in March and turns your year upside down like everybody else. And do you stand there for a minute and go, okay, now what do we do?
For a second, there was a moment of panic. I was familiar with Facebook Live, so I did a few Facebook Live shows. And I still go live when I play out in public. I go live on Facebook because that's a more appropriate platform for that. But the second I got onto Twitch, I realized this was a viable option. And a lot of artists, they play on Twitch to hundreds of people. There's a long spread, but if you're really good, you can make a living that way and never leave your house. So it quickly became a challenge that's been really fun to try and do. So there's a long road ahead, but it's been really a blast to try and get into it.
Does any live performances kind of creep back in here over this past summer, or is it strictly just everything digital and social?
They definitely came back. July, August, September, they were pretty steady. But now that it's getting better, everything's dropping off very quickly. Sure.
It's interesting how, because I think my go-tos are, I know my go-tos are rock and country. I've always loved listening to music and new music especially. And some of the interviews I've listened to here recently, you hear some of the big acts, big stars talking about, well, we have all this time on our hands now. We have to try to figure out what we're going to do because they're not on the road. They let all their road show people go. And what I thought of something the other day because I was listening to Luke Combs' new song Better Together, and it sounded so much less like it was recorded in a studio and so much more like he just sat down in front of a mic with a piano player and a computer and recorded the song or the EP for everybody to hear. I thought that was super cool, and it seems like it's one of those pivots, and I've talked about pivots in business and stuff all this year. It's one of those pivots that musicians had to do to stay relevant, to ultimately book shows or make money for that matter.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, what's do you kind of see the same things in the industry?
I definitely, it's just been a huge shift. Everybody's had to revamp their models because what was working traditionally, and most artists especially, as of the past 10 years or so, they were basing their incomes. It was when you toured. You get revenue, of course, if you're really big, when you get spins on Spotify and things like that, but you need a lot. So if you're not Adele, you're touring to make your money. You're selling merch. You're hitting the pavement. But now that's so different. And normally I'm very love-hate with social media because by and large, I really don't like how it's made people act. They act differently on keyboard. So I really don't like that. But what it has done for music that I think is really beautiful is 100% taking down that barrier. It's not just a musician in a studio with famous people and you get to enjoy it, 6 months later. It's people in their living rooms going live, huge people. I watched Ashley McBride. She's phenomenal. And she just sits on her couch. I don't even know if she's like going through anything. She's just playing and it's incredible and responding to comments and talking to people. And so I think it's been a really beautiful thing that music, I feel like, is getting back to where it should be, really personal, talking to people, interaction. Whereas when we went to a show with 10,000 people, it was just madness. But now it's personal and it's really about the music. You can feel the difference. I think it's amazing.
Getting that instant connection and almost instant feedback to what you're singing. I've kept songs now. I had a few times where I'd write a song right before a show on Twitch, play it, and be like, "What do you think I should keep it?" And I have one song, Shade. That's the only reason I kept it, was I played it live the second I wrote it, and people loved it. And then it's like a personal thing you have with those listeners that they were like, "I told her to keep that. I'm like in that song now." Or in this painting, I painted this live. What colors to use. It's a whole different world now where people are in it together. It's cool. Yeah. So before this pandemic and as things were rolling along for you, was there any approach from bigger name acts that wanted you to participate in a show or go on the road or anything like that?
We were definitely working towards it. We recorded down in Nashville, and that was really great. And I got to work with amazing musicians, studio musicians from Nashville, and the producer and his wife. That's what they do. They songwrite with Nashville musicians and people. So there was definitely a movement towards that. We were hoping, I had been planning a trip down to Nashville to co-write with a bunch of people. And the plans were in place, and then I couldn't go. So unfortunately that didn't happen. But now I'm hearing about my friend Just Joe. He's interacting with people, found some songwriters on Twitch. Now they're working together. So people are still finding ways. They're just different. So I'm hoping those things will still happen, just in maybe a different way.
Do you think the local music arena survives all of this, or only do the cream of the crop come to the top, so to say, after all of this?
It's different. What makes it most different is now it's not easy. You can't just get hired to play a show. You have to do everything yourself. And that was true for the most part. People get comfortable. I know I had my rotation of gigs. I hardly ever asked anyone for a gig. They just kept coming and asking and asking. So when you get in that comfortable rotation of, okay, I'm playing somewhere 5 nights a week and they'll just tell me where, that becomes easy. Whereas now to get that taken away from you, you have to start from scratch and build up your audience online and build a whole new studio to facilitate an online performance, which is totally different than what I do live. And so it's just a big adjustment. So I wouldn't say it has anything to do with talent. It just has to do with your work ethic. So if you're willing to work and grow it and just keep trying, then you'll succeed. But if you're not, it doesn't matter if you're super talented. If your video isn't good and your sound is bad, it doesn't matter. So it's really come down to that. Yeah.
Now, have you, I think one of the coolest things I've seen you post over the last couple of years is the open mic night at Maxwell's. And how you really give props to the singers that come out and perform. And it's not just you performing. I mean, you're showing video of anybody that's brave enough to step to the mic and show their talent. Have you been able to kind of take on that mentor role for any of the new artists that are kind of looking to make a break or break in, for that matter?
I love that. I love that that's like something that stood out to you. I definitely have, but now it's been a lot of different artists, not ones that I had predicted. Like before the pandemic started, I had plans to do a FIRE festival, which was Females Inspire. Oh gosh, I don't even remember what it all stood for. But it was about like women encouraging women, and all. It was going to be, the whole place was going to be decorated with female art and all female musicians, original artists. So everyone was going to play original songs, and that was the idea, was to mentor these younger artists and show everybody that there are a lot of great events that showcase talent in Syracuse, but it's talent that people know. And through my open mic, if I've learned anything, it's that, oh my God, there's so many, everybody's talented.
Yeah.
So it was, I feel like, missing the mark to exclude all these people. So I was trying to bring them up and put them in front of people. And it was really sad to me that it couldn't happen. But through Twitch, I've started working with other people. Like just the other day, you can like, they have a function on there where you can raid another artist. So you can bring your audience to somebody else. And that's a great way to help each other grow, because you're your fans and introducing them to someone you like. And then they pick someone they like. So I found other ways to continue helping people. And that's the only way I've succeeded. And I think most musicians do, is somebody helped you a lot.
Right.
And probably a lot of people did. So to keep passing that along is, I think, essential to the whole thing.
Yeah, and it reminded me. So I did a podcast interview with a pretty successful business entrepreneur from out west in Utah, Trevor Cowley. And one of the things that he said that has stuck with me since I did that back in the spring was, successful people just want to help. They just want to help others. So if you need help, just ask. And I went, well, I heard him say that on his own podcast. So I went, what the heck? I'll ask him to be on mine. And to my surprise, he goes, okay.
I love that.
Yeah, it was just, I was like floored. But it just, and I think, and I just kind of put that together with what you just said, is, you're a musician that just wants to help, and you want to build up other musicians and build up the industry, which is just fantastic. What's your biggest piece of advice that you would give to a newer musician trying to get started?
Yeah, this is a question that I ask myself in the car all the time. Like, what would I say? And every time is different, but there's like a few things, like kind of what you just said, is that don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Something I think that's really beautiful, really about anything, but especially art and music, is that there is every kind of music in this world. And that means that there's every kind of audience and every kind of listener. So you never have to be afraid of not being good enough. Someone is going to respond to you if you're putting your heart in it, if you're real. That's what people respect and respond to. So as long as you keep being yourself, you can get somewhere. So you just have to keep trying is what comes after that. I know a lot of people get frustrated when they don't have instant success at whatever level. You just have to keep going. Don't let anyone ever tell you no. Just keep doing it until you get there, and that's it. And then keep going.
How long did it take you to start getting that momentum and things really start clicking?
So that's another funny thing that happens, is I started in 2013. And at first there was like so much excitement and like, oh, I didn't even know you could play. This is so like a novelty. This is wonderful. And then when I started doing it more, it almost turned into jealousy, where people are like, well, wait, now you're taking my gigs and you haven't been playing for 20 years. So you're not that good. And so there you get this mix where people are really excited and then people who are a little jealous. So it just takes an incredibly thick skin and a lot of time. And you just keep doing it. And there will always be people telling you, tearing you down. And I feel like that's success. If you have people telling you they don't like you, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing something right. If people care enough to say it. So fine. And that's their opinion. That's great. Have it, but that should only fuel anyone to keep going and try harder, and not to please them, but to know that you're doing something. If people are noticing you enough to say something, good, keep going.
Nice. So is that the ugly side of the industry, or does it get uglier from there?
I mean, at every level, there's, an ugly side in every business. I mean, there's always something. So in music, there's egos big time, and you can't avoid that. You just have to ignore it to some extent and learn from it and try not to be like that. But, and then of course there's money and there's competition, there's limited gigs, there's limited space for people, you think. But what I love is when we went down to Nashville, they really talked to me a lot about it, that success can be whatever you want. If you want to be Lady Gaga, that's great. That's one path. But you can also be a songwriter who never leaves the house and makes a fine living. So there are different options too. So even if you don't look like a rock star, that's okay. You don't
Right. Right.
So it's whatever you want, you can make happen.
Well, sure. I mean, I think rock stars, if you think of the glam bands back in the 80s, they didn't look like that before they became, Aerosmith or Bon Jovi or, any of those, before they were found.
Right.
Right. So, and you think of, and I've heard of stories over the years of some of these bands, they get so high in themselves that, you go to a city and their dressing room has to be outfitted with A, B, C, and D, only certain water, certain beer, certain drugs in some case, certain food and so on. I think I guess that's playing off of what you said about the egos and really being fully yourself.
Yeah, for that.
Yeah. Where do you see Jess Novak and the Jess Novak band going, into next year and beyond, getting past pandemic crisis mode?
Yeah.
Where do you guys see yourself moving on to or getting to? What's the glass ceiling?
So, oh man, there's no ceiling. It's which I love. But we just released a new album in September called Standing Now. So we're gonna keep, pushing that in whatever ways we can. and I really want to get back in the studio. We've already started rehearsing some new songs, so I'd love to put out another shorter album. I feel like that's the way to go now, just smaller albums, and then just get out whenever we can. I'm already planning a Twitch show with the full band, which will be a challenge to get the sound correct, but it'll be fun. Yeah. So we're going to try and do that in November, I think.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever write a song, put together a song and went, I don't know about this. I'm not sure if that's something that should be on an album. But then as the listeners and your fans started hearing it, they're like, yeah, that's great. You got to play that more. Is there a certain song or a group of songs that you just kind of went, but everybody else seemed to love?
Loads of them.
Okay.
or the other way, where I played a song, got no reaction. I was like, well, I like it, so I'm going to record it. And there's a prime example of that. There's a song called For You that's on my album, Fear is the Cage, Love is the Key, that I never play live. I just had it sitting around and really wanted to record it. And when I did, it was the favorite. For so many, people personally contacted me to tell me about that song. And so you don't know what people are going to respond to. It just has to be the right setting. And I know for me, the band has a certain sound. My solo has a certain sound. Safe Word with my boyfriend Ben has a certain sound. And the songs tend to find where they're supposed to go.
How hard is it to get a group like that and make it click? Get all those gears going together, getting everybody clicking, creatively, musically, going, yep, this is it. This is the person we need in our group. How hard is that?
It's challenging. It's more just time. And what a lot of people, I think, don't realize about a band is that it's not like you hire someone and they have the skill set that you need and that's it, whatever. They just do their thing at the job. With a band, it's, to me, like 90% personality, that and ethic. And if you're going to show up, and if you're going to show up on time, that to me is you could be the best musician I've ever heard, but if you're not going to show up and be responsible, I don't want anything to do with you. So it takes time to find not just people who are talented or respond to your songs, but to see how they interact and work with you and work with the rest of the band. And something my trumpet player said recently, his name is Nick Fields, and he is an out of this world talent, just amazing. But his biggest compliment to me was that he said, this band has no egos. And I love that, because that's always been my biggest goal. I want people who work together, care about each other, treat it like a family where you can argue, but you respect each other every single time. Yeah. That is the most challenging part, I think, in putting together a band.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think I've taken up, I could ask you questions probably from now until 6 p.m., but I know you're a busy lady, so I'll kind of wrap it up here. But, if people wanted to connect with you, if they wanted to hear your music, how would they best connect with you?
Yeah, I'm easy to find. But JessRockNovak.com is my website, and that takes you to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the band, solo, Safe Word with Ben. I'm very easy to find. Jess Novak and Jess Rock 87 on Twitter and Instagram. But the website is the hub to find the rest.
Definitely is. Listen, if anybody's listening, if you hadn't had a chance to hear Jess perform, take a little bit of time, go to her website, listen to a couple of songs. You're going to love it. But look out for her on her Twitch channel. It's a Twitch channel. I'm so out of touch with Twitch. I don't know any better, but so go to Twitch, check out her live performances. You won't be disappointed. I'd love to have you on again, maybe post-pandemic, and see how things are and how things are going. That would be fantastic. But I thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gilby.
Awesome. Hey guys, this is the At the Coffee Table podcast. I'd appreciate it if you'd like, comment, and share it with anybody that might get a kick out of this episode and hearing about the music industry here locally. But at the coffee table, we pull up our virtual chairs to the virtual coffee table and discuss anything and everything. And hopefully our audience gets a little bit out of it. With that, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.